In this video, we dive into a case where one mystery changed everything. A family that once seemed unbreakable was left in ruins when hidden truths came to light. Ebie Steppatch, who is 18 years old, called her brother. Her voice was shaky and tense. Plus, she said, "I don't know where I am," as she stood outside his house. "I'm gone," were her last words. No one saw her again after that. After 2 days, her car was found in a park. There was a key in the ignition, and her phone, wallet, and other personal things were inside the car. But Ebie herself was not to be found. The cops didn't think the case was very important. Before we continue, I'd really love to know where you're watching from. Whether it's a big city or a small town, drop your location in the comments below. It's always interesting to see how far these stories reach. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into true crime, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when a new case is posted. Now let's get back into it. Ebie Steppatch was born on March 31st, 1997, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Her parents are Lori and Peter Steppatch. Ebie lived with her mother after her parents split up, but she still talked to her dad. Her family had a sister named Harris Elizabeth, a brother named Trevor, and a half-brother named Ethan. Each of them has helped raise her. Mike Jernigan, who became her stepfather when he married Lori, was a very important person in her life. Her maternal relatives, especially her grandmother Peggy Holman, were also very important to Ebie. She felt safe and supported by her grandmother. Ebie's first school was a private one called Lisa Academy. There, she worked hard, was interested, and participated in class. She switched schools at the last minute, though, going to public Little Rock Central High in her senior year. What happened in 2015, including that move, changed her life. Ebie always wanted to be on her own and was very interested in learning about the world, even when she was very young. She was especially interested in learning other languages. She taught herself Spanish, Turkish, and Hebrew by immersing herself in the subtleties of each culture and learning the right way to say words, stress, and volume. Ebie was very sure about a lot of things. She was brave enough to protect them. She had a strong case for what she believed in, and she really cared about justice. Ebie liked clothes and tried different hair and makeup styles. Her sense of style went beyond just clothes. Her looks changed a lot. Each of the looks she tried was planned. Ebie also liked nature, photography, small things, and city streets. She could see the world from different points of view and find beauty in everyday things because she loved taking pictures. Her favorite place to be outside was the ocean. Ebie felt calm in nature, and she loved telling her friends about it. She had a strong personality, was fair and kind, and she couldn't stand people who lied. In 2015, she made a very important choice. She chose to live alone. She quit living with her brother Trevor and began staying with friends and her grandmother. While her parents were worried, Ebie saw it as a big step towards being on her own. She got her first real job that summer at a Foot Locker in McCain Mall. On the first try, her parents were proud of how driven and determined she was. Soon, though, they saw changes. She wasn't there as often. It got harder to get to her. As new people entered her life, the mood changed. The world around her and she were both changing. Something was different about Ebie, even though she was still bright and full of energy. She fought back more and was more independent. With her growing self-confidence came a stronger unwillingness to follow the rules. She was okay with change. Actually, she looked like she was chasing it. People who knew her could tell that something had changed about her, though. Ebie began dating someone around this time. He didn't make her family feel good. They felt bad about it. They didn't like something about the guy. They never fought with Ebie about it in public, but they were worried. However, they were secretly worried that the relationship would get her into trouble. She changed how she behaved as her friends did. Ebie began to pull away. Over time, her parents lost touch with her, and her world moved into a private area they couldn't get to. When she moved to a public school, she stopped going to class. Her parents were told by the school, but attempts to talk it out were turned down. Ebie did not give up. She wished to be free and able to decide for herself what to do. Every time people talked about rules and who was responsible, the conversation ended without a solution. Her parents had lost track of who she was hanging out with. Even though they were scared, they were losing control. Even Danielle, a close friend, saw that something wasn't right. Since Lisa Academy, they have been close. Although Ebie switched schools, they stayed close. But that summer, Danielle saw that the gap was getting bigger. Everything was shared, including fears, dreams, and secrets. Now Ebie was guarded and pulled away. It was not her choice to hang out. The spark in their conversations went away. The emotional link that used to make them friends had grown weak. That wasn't all Ebie was doing. She was going inside herself. Danielle was worried about more than just Ebie's behavior. Now she was running with a new group of people. These people were brave, careless, and rude, like the friends Ebie used to have. They didn't respect those in charge. They did not follow the rules. And they liked pushing the limits. They caught Ebie's eye, though. She seemed to be looking for something that she couldn't find anywhere else. Danielle didn't make sense of why Ebie stayed so close to that group, but she felt bad about it. These changes lasted for a long time. They were there forever. By the beginning of autumn, things were getting worse. Ebie hardly ever went to school. People started not knowing where she was at night. She took off days at a time sometimes. Even though her parents were very worried, any attempts to set limits led to fights. It was clear to Ebie that she would not put up with control or pressure. It became clear to Ebie's family that she no longer saw herself as a part of their structure. Now that she was living on her own, those rules didn't include them. According to Danielle, their friendship ended that summer. She tried to reach out, but Ebie wasn't the same person she knew. Every talk felt less warm and closer. Even if Ebie didn't say it, Danielle knew Ebie was running away from danger, and she knew there was no turning back. In October 2015, Ebie Steppatch went to a party. Danielle, who had just spent time with her, didn't want to go. She didn't feel safe in that crowd. She wasn't into it. It was terrible news in the morning. Ebie went to her parents' house looking upset but calm. She told them that she had been attacked by a group on purpose the night before. Ebie said 4 young men were involved, and she named them. She was sure they had recorded everything on a cell phone. She didn't say much more. She said that she was shocked but aware. She did not say much about the party or the events that led up to the attack. It was clear what she was focusing on. There was video proof that the attack happened on her mother, Lori Jernigan, and her stepfather, Michael Jernigan. It was a very sad moment. Michael thought Ebie looked determined. That's not what she wanted. She was making clear what she meant. She promised to tell someone. She had a clear mind. She was all set to do something. In the evening, they agreed that Michael would take her to the train station. They didn't agree on a specific time, but everyone knew what they meant. After a while, Ebie left the house. She never returned. From then on, she only talked to her family through her grandmother. The event she had reported that morning was never brought up again. When Ebie told her family what had happened, that was the only time she was honest about it. Although the trip to the police station never happened, not a single official report was made. After she talked to her stepfather about it, Ebie stopped coming home. Her schooling ended. She became less connected to the world around her. It turned out that Ebie called her friend Danielle on October 24th, the same day she talked to her family. That day, she told her she was going to see her brother and suggested they get together. It didn't look like her actions were hurting herself. She still tried to get in touch and make plans. Not to pull away, but to a strong need for justice after a traumatic event. On that morning, confession wasn't the only thing that happened. A turning point happened. Some people may have needed a reason to shut her up. Even after telling her family what was going on, Ebie kept texting Danielle. That's how she usually stayed when things weren't going well. Danielle concurred. That night was a way for Ebie to get back to a place she knew was safe and familiar. It was a time of comfort with someone she still trusted. Later, Danielle said that Ebie looked tense. She was shy and quiet. She paused while she talked. At one point, Ebie talked about all the trouble, but she didn't go into specifics. Even though Danielle didn't push, she could tell that Ebie was being quiet. Something was making her guard up, but she wasn't ready to talk about it. In the end, Ebie needed help with a piercing. She needed to open up one of her old piercings that had closed up. Brianne helped. What happened was normal and not complicated. The tattoo on Ebie's shoulder had already healed and said, "Each night leads to a brighter day." She didn't get it on the spur of the moment. What that line said about Ebie was true, but there was hope that things could change, even though it was dark. October 25th, the next morning, Ebie left Danielle's house. She went to the house of her grandmother, Peggy Holman. The visit wasn't planned, but Peggy wasn't shocked. Ebie would often drop by without warning. Nothing happened that day. Their activities included talking, eating ice cream, and watching SpongeBob. Ebie's mood didn't seem strange in any way. It was dinner time when she arrived. She said she had to meet her stepfather around 8 p.m. Her grandmother was reminded that she was still going to call the police. The plan, nevertheless, remained in place. She loved her grandparents and gave them a hug before she left. She answered that she would be back soon. Her voice and actions didn't show that she knew something wasn't right. She seemed calm, sure of herself, and at ease. Family members did not see Ebie Steppatch again after that. The last part of Ebie's story that could be proven was when she left her grandmother's house on October 25th evening. We don't know what happened after that. Here, the direct line of communication ends. The moment Ebie was no longer seen, it looked like she had no plans to leave. It wasn't clear from what she said or did that she was running away. They were told she would be back soon, but she never did. That broken promise was the first real sign that something was wrong. It all changed on the night of October 25th and 26th. Ebie's brother Trevor woke up around 2 a.m. when she called him. As soon as he saw her name flash on the screen, he picked up the phone. Her voice was shaky. She said she was in front of his house. Even though Trevor ran outside, there was no one else on the street. Unfortunately, Ebie and her car were not to be found. For some reason, he called her back. She replied. She told them she was in her car this time, but she didn't know where she was parked. Trevor hadn't heard a voice like hers before. She seemed lost and uninterested, like she wasn't fully present. She couldn't make it clear where she was. Her speech was jumbled and hard to understand. Those were the words that would stay with him forever. "I'm not here anymore." What she said to him was the last thing she said. Nothing else happened after the call ended. Trevor kept calling her, but she never answered. The doorbell stopped ringing. That call to Trevor happened about 6 hours after Ebie left her grandmother's house. 6 hours that no one knows anything about. It came out later that Ebie called 911 twice that night. Neither lasted more than a minute. No recordings of sound survived. Later, the authorities said they didn't have any technical records, stored files, or logs of the calls. However, the family confirmed that the calls did happen. That little thing made me think about a lot of things. No one is sure what she was trying to say. Potentially, she was in danger. She may have been trying to tell you where she was. There's no doubt that she thought someone was following her. She didn't act like someone who was trying to disappear. They looked more like someone was responding to an emergency or a situation that got out of hand. The family moved quickly. When her parents couldn't reach her the next morning, they called her phone over and over again. Initially, it rang. Then it stopped working. They were sure that something was very wrong after that shift. They went to the police the next day to report the person missing, although they were turned away. According to the police, it was too early, and certain steps needed to be taken before Ebie could be officially reported missing. The police were more likely to believe that Ebie had left on her own. Legally, she was an adult. She liked being on her own, and she had recently pushed for more freedom. That wasn't what her family thought, though. She wouldn't act like this. She had kept in touch right up until the night before. The complete radio silence and sudden disappearance didn't fit with how she usually did things. It was then that the clock began to tick. Even though Ebie Steppatch was officially missing, there was a big difference between how her family saw things and how the police responded. This was the first of many missed opportunities. Still, no one knew how long they would have to wait for answers. On October 27, 2015, 2 days after Ebie went missing, her 2003 Volkswagen Passat was found. Someone saw the car in an empty lot next to Chalamont Park, right next to some trees. He decided to call the police because the car had been in the same spot the day before. No patrol was sent out that night, even though he asked for one. Police finally came after he checked again the next day and confirmed that the car hadn't moved. After about an hour, police arrived at the scene of the second report. The car really did belong to Ebie. Also, the key was still in the lock. There was no petrol left in the tank. The power was off. The car didn't look like it had any damage, though. Her purse, clothes, phone, wallet with ID, and bank cards and contact lens case were inside the car and in the trunk. With or without her lenses, Ebie had bad vision and couldn't see well. Seeing that she had her phone, wallet, and lenses with her, which are all necessary items for daily life, pointed to one thing. Ebie never meant to go away. There was no money on her. She left behind something she needed physically and didn't take any way to get in touch with people. All of these things ruled out the idea of someone choosing to disappear. Still, the police didn't do anything extra. There was no tape around the car. People didn't treat it like a possible crime scene. The inspection didn't go very deep. The trunk was not shut properly. Then a heavy rainstorm came that night. Documents, clothes, and any possible evidence that was inside were all ruined and wet. After a while, Ebie's parents were given her things, which were still damaged by water. Things had to be packed and dried by themselves. They took careful pictures of everything they were handling because they knew how important it was and wanted to keep whatever might still be useful. It was all put in a bag and carried home safely. The seriousness of the situation wasn't recognized even after the car was found. Not a single official investigation was begun. Police did not call a forensic team. It wasn't properly secured or analyzed, and many people think that's when important evidence was lost for good. There was no record of any fingerprints, DNA, biological material, or important forensic evidence being found in the things that Ebie left in her car. There was no effort to keep the possible evidence safe, which is against even the most basic rules of investigation. For Ebie's family, this was the clearest sign yet that the police weren't paying attention to her disappearance. The body of a young woman who went missing is found in a remote park inside her abandoned car. Police still haven't acted quickly or in any way that suggests they are in touch. What was left in the car, how bad it looked, and how far away it was all pointed to the same conclusion. Ebie had probably left it behind quickly or because she felt under a lot of stress. That part of town was not where she belonged by herself. It didn't fit at all. From that point on, Ebie's family was sure she didn't leave on purpose. Even though they thought that, the investigation didn't go any further. The car was discovered. Ebie was still missing, though, so that was another chance lost, the first of many. It turned out that her family's house was an unofficial command center. Everything her parents found in the car, like wet clothes, documents, her phone, and hygiene products, was carefully packed, labeled, and photographed so that they could be kept safe. However, the police did nothing. They did not do any forensic testing, collect samples, or write down any evidence. She felt like her family had to become detectives themselves. When they talked to police, they got short, standard responses. There were scripted responses to every request to take Ebie's case to a higher level. There was no organized search in the park where her car was found, and no one from her neighborhood or group of friends was asked any questions. There were no requests for surveillance footage from streets nearby. The news talked about her parents. Posting flyers, asking for help, and calling private investigators were some of the things they did. But because they couldn't get to evidence or police databases, they couldn't do much. Every day, there was less and less hope for a real breakthrough. Over the next hour, it got harder to put together the timeline of what had really happened. It was terrible to lose so much time. It got heavier every day in Ebie's house that she felt like she couldn't do anything. It will be almost 8 months before anything changes. Not until there was a lot of public pressure and her parents kept asking for it was the case finally reclassified. It was confirmed that Ebie Steppatch was missing. That title made it possible to start a full investigation, but it was too late by then. It had become cold on the trail. Important hints were gone. If there were witnesses, they had passed away or forgotten about what happened, and any evidence that could have shown the truth was probably gone for good. Margie Foley, who is the mother of one of Ebie's best friends, went back to Chalamon Park in the spring of 2016. It wasn't just a quick stop by. Something about that spot was making her feel bad. In that area, Ebie's car was discovered, and a big concrete drainage pipe that went underground was only a few steps away from the parking lot. Even though the police had never been interested in that building, Foley couldn't get rid of the feeling. It didn't seem right. She could not stand the smell as she got closer to the pipe. Sharp and clear, it smelt like something that can only come from decay. There was no doubt that something bad was going on inside because it was so strong. Right away, Margie called the police. Within an hour, a police officer showed up. She pointed right at the pipe and said what it smelt like, making it clear that it wasn't normal. It wasn't just trash or water that ran off. Although the officer listened, he moved away from the pipe after a short time. He chose not to look inside. He told her calmly that public park storm drains often get clogged with trash, water, and organic matter, especially after it rains a lot. He said smells like this happened all the time. He also said he didn't notice anything fishy and didn't see a reason to look into it any further. Margie did not give up. She again said that the smell was strangely strong, almost sickly sweet, and unlike anything else she had ever smelt. Her advice was to either use a torch or call a K-9 unit, but the police officer didn't back down. He said there were no signs of a crime and nothing needed to be done. He left without checking the pipe first. The event wasn't recorded. There was no follow-up, report, or agency that came to check the pipe. Someone didn't connect it to the abandoned VW that was only a few yards away. It turned out that the drainage pipe was right next to where Ebie's car had been found, less than 65 feet away. It only needed a quick look inside, but one officer's carelessness meant that a possible important piece of evidence was missed, and the spot stayed empty for almost 2 more years. It was another terrible blow for the Steppatch family. More awareness, concern, and investigative sense were shown by a civilian, just a mother going with her gut, than by a trained professional. One of the worst parts of Ebie's case was this moment. Suddenly, what everyone had been looking for was right there, next to her car. It had been weeks, months, or even years, but Ebie Steppatch still wasn't there. Ever since she went missing, her family has been waiting and feeling helpless. There was no sound for thousands of days, no gossip or leads. Not knowing turned out to be its own kind of pain. The police and other local governments stayed put. Monty Vickers was hired by Ebie's dad as a private investigator because he didn't want the case to be forgotten. Vickers began his work by looking into the last messages Ebie sent. What interested him were the texts she sent the night before she disappeared. In those texts, Ebie talked directly to a few young men she said had intentionally slapped her. She spoke in a severe way. She informed the police that she was leaving. It was said that there was a video. She told them they had to come forward. It was very clear to Ebie that she wasn't going to keep quiet any longer. She was selected to fight. After that, Ebie was nowhere to be found the next day. Her family saw the link right away. Ebie went up to the people she thought were attacking her, and soon after, they were gone. It wasn't a coincidence to them, they were sure. They thought the reason was easy, to stop a threat before it could speak. The police didn't do anything, though. The men Ebie named did not have warrants issued for their phones to be searched. The messages were never properly looked over, even though they might have contained threats, confessions, or clues. They were told that there wasn't enough of a reason. It was yet another chance lost. Ebie named names and made direct accusations, but the investigation only went as far as interviews with people on the surface. People didn't look into digital traces. No gadgets were taken away. No one tracked down their friends and family. It was still written that the young men were witnesses, not suspects. There were systemic problems with the case that Monty Vickers kept pointing out. These included a lack of urgency, bureaucratic inertia, and no attempt to make an investigation plan. He said that the police had not tried to talk to these people again in 3 years, even when new information came to light. Due to those mistakes, the case stayed where it was. That forgotten detail came up again in the autumn of 2018, that concrete drainage pipe in Chalamont Park. In 2015, Ebie's car had been found just a few feet away on that one. Finally, after 3 years, the police decided to search the area properly, and everyone would be shocked by what they found. Human bones were found inside the concrete drainage pipe. Just the location of the body was scary, but it was clear right away that it belonged to a woman after the preliminary examination, and it was proven within days. Her name was Ebie Steppatch. She had been only a few steps away from where her car was found in the same park that police had been to before, right next to the spot they had ruled out in 2015 and 2016, the exact place that had been mentioned before but never really looked for. Investigators weren't able to find a specific cause of death because the body parts were badly decomposed from time and exposure. A full forensic analysis could not be done because of how the body was found. There was only one thing the medical examiner could say for sure. It was a murder. The body wasn't just thrown into the pipe by chance. It was put there on purpose. But other than that, there were no other conclusive findings, defensive wounds, or biological clues that could point to a suspect. Everything changed after this discovery. That proved Ebie didn't just vanish. It was she who was there the whole time. There is a chance that she could have been found in 2015 if that pipe had been thoroughly searched. In 2016, if the officer had paid more attention to the smell instead of dismissing it as sewer, it's possible that they could have found out what really happened and even identified the person who did it. Both times, though, will never be remembered. The discovery was like a bitter ending. Actually, Ebie's body had been found, and now it was official. Her case was a murder. Even though it was called that, there was still no real progress. Investigators were not able to find suspects, file charges, or come up with a clear explanation for what had occurred. In her last messages, Ebie named men she said hurt her, but they were never brought in as suspects and were never questioned again. Families like hers were met with silence. Justice had stopped at a point where it could no longer go any further. There was no physical evidence, no way to get to important messages, and no forensic timeline. The case was holding up and wouldn't move. The investigation and any chance of a trial in court were pretty much over. There was no way to hold anyone responsible for the deaths that had already been confirmed. It got out in public when Ebie's mom, Lori Jernigan, lost her temper. She talked about it on national stages. People talked to her. She was on several popular TV shows, including an emotional one with Dr. Phil. Anyone with information that could help solve the case could win a $50,000 reward from the family. Donors, including private citizens and nonprofits, gave the money to help them get justice. Nothing yet. It's not happening. Not a single person came forward. Either the people who knew something didn't say anything, or loyalty, fear, and the need to stay alive were stronger than guilt. A lot of people remembered Ebie. Podcasts, YouTube investigations, and independent documentaries all told her story. People outside the system kept it going. But in a formal sense, there was no response. All of the people Ebie had named kept living their lives. Some of them had families and jobs. It was free for them to go. Ebie's family and friends were left without her, still sad and waiting, with only unanswered questions and the harsh truth that no one would be held responsible. People still had doubts, but doubts are not proof. You wouldn't have charges, a trial, or justice without hard evidence. The story comes to an end there. No one can prove in court that something is true that everyone can see. It's not fair. It's not having it. Actually, that's the worst part. Thank you for joining me for this story. Share your thoughts below. And if you found this case interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe, and see you soon.